There's a stereotype of how black women should behave, what our role should be in this country. The role we were supposed to fulfill was the mammy role. Mammy is loving, kind, patient with people who do not want Mammy to have any rights. They don't want Mammy to be allowed to vote, to own a business, to have time to take care of her own husband and her own children. Mammy should be thinking and caring about her white folks 7 days a week from sun up to sundown, 365 days a year. This picture is from the movie Coquette from 1929, starring Mary Pickford. You can see Mary Pickford here being comforted by the mammy that raised her. Ironically, the actress playing her mammy is Louise Beavers, who is actually 8 years younger than Mary Pickford. But it has been said that white people can't tell the age of black people. If you're a 10-year-old boy, you're seen as a man, and if you're a 28-year-old woman, you can be seen as 40. The maids in movies were a continuation of the mammy role. Maids didn't just clean the house or cook the food. They were an emotional support and a physical support for the white woman's emotions, telling her how precious she was, how beautiful she was, how much the mammy loved her. As in slavery, the white folks said, she's a part of the family. A part of the family that is expected to work every day of the year. Taking time off for your own life is unheard of. That's why people were kind of disgusted when this girl had made a TikTok praising her nanny for being with her family for 30 years and taking care of her. And the nanny never got to go home to see her own children in the Philippines for 30 years. Only people on the outside could view how horrifying that was. The girl who made the TikTok presented it like it was so beautiful and endearing to forego your life for your white folks. In 1934, there was a movie called Imitation of Life. We had another black maid played by the actress Louise Beavers. She is extra subservient to the point of it's kind of ridiculous. She and the lady she works for start a pancake restaurant. They had a pancake flour business. They sold millions of boxes of pancake mix. When the white lady, played by Claudette Colbert, asked her maid to sign a contract that would give the maid 20% of the company's profits so she can buy her own house, the maid says, I don't want that money. I don't want a house. I just want to stay here and take care of you. That is what's considered to being a good Negro. Someone who doesn't care about their own well-being or their own rights or their own family. First and foremost, they want to take care of their white folks. What's the source of these attitudes? Firstly, black people were made to work for no pay. Masters had to think of why that would be. What would justify that? They justified it in many ways. In 1851, a medical doctor invented a disease called drapetomania. He said that black people who ran away from slavery were mentally ill, that the institution of slavery was so wonderful that if a black person started to feel like they were equal to the owner, that is an indication of being mentally ill. The doctor cited the Bible as his proof that slaves should obey their masters. Somehow he overlooked the 10 Commandments that say do not kill and do not steal. The more things change, the more they stay the same. In the 2011 movie, The Help, there was a plot line where Minnie the maid teaches the white lady she's working for how to cook. So Minnie is not only cleaning the house, she is acting as a culinary instructor. To repay her, the housewife gives Minnie a big meal with a lot of food. But when I was watching that movie, my question was, why didn't she just pay Minnie some money? Financial compensation. No, you should not give money. You should not support civil rights. The extent of thanks to black person is just to say, you're like a part of our family. During enslavement, slaves were told that they were part of the family. When I went to Virginia and I toured Colonial Williamsburg, the guides told us that the slaves were not provided with food. Even though they were cooks, the cooks for the household, the slaves were expected to forage for food and to hunt their own game for meat. Black men were also supposed to be bowing and scraping and subservient, always smiling, always speaking happy, and to be emotionally supportive to the people who would deny him his human rights, civil rights, and economic compensation. Here is a picture of Billy Kersans. He was born in 1852. He was a minstrel performer. At one point, he was the highest paid black person in show business. There was an obsession with his mouth and how big it was. He was known for singing, dancing, comedy, and putting objects in his mouth, such as billiard balls or a cup and saucer. The audiences were obsessed with big black lips. He played the role of the dimwit because that was the only persona really allowed for a black man. Ever wonder why some white people are surprised when we don't like it when they come up and touch our hair? It's because our bodies are supposedly here on earth to comfort and entertain them, as stated in the Bible, quote unquote. When we are not willing to comfort or entertain them, to them it seems abnormal. They have to come down from their high place up there with God to reach down and touch us. We should be grateful. During Jim Crow, after slavery, the black people were supposed to be segregated and separate. Yet we were nursing their babies, cooking their meals, and making their bed. It was later revealed that America's biggest segregationist, Senator Strom Thurmond, who wanted to keep black people out of white schools, white parks, and white swimming pools, it was revealed that he had a black daughter by his family's black maid. But America constantly told itself how happy slaves were being slaves. After slavery was declared illegal, popular songs put forth the idea that black people loved the South, loved slavery, and longed for the good old days. Meanwhile, as soon as we were able, contrary to that, we fled the South in what was called the Great Migration to the North. There were a lot of songs that sentimentalized the South. One went, I labored so hard for massa, day after day in the field of yellow corn. No place on earth do I love more sincerely than old Virginia, the state where I was born. That was a Virginia state song until 1997. With all this in mind, we can see why they like referring to the heads of sports teams as owners. You have all these black men who are great athletes, handsome and skilled, but they are owned by team owners, quote unquote. Have we gotten beyond the 1787 3/5 compromise? That's when our government decided to count each individual slave as if he or she was 3/5 of a person. They were counting people to determine how much representation the state would have in the U.S. House of Representatives. Free black people would be counted as whole people. But free black people were only 10% of the total black population. The vast majority of black people were enslaved. With all this in mind, now we can see why racists were devastated to have a black president. The first black president and his wife were lawyers, highly educated, and not subservient. They called President Obama arrogant, and First Lady Michelle Obama has been called transgender, even though there are pictures of her from her childhood showing she's a biological girl. In conclusion, we look at black people in the workplace today. You are thought to be aggressive if you advocate for yourself, if you speak up, or if you address racism. It all goes back to Mammy. If you don't act like Mammy, you're seen as a bad person. That's just my opinion.